Hey, Cyberspace, Nathan Wallace coming at you from the engineering offices of Empirical Cybical outside New Orleans, Louisiana, and this is the third video as far as industry news. Today is August 31st, 2018, and if you watched any of the other videos, I kind of like to divide things up into three different categories. We have general power system cybersecurity news as well as conferences. So let's get started. Hopefully can speed things up. I know the past few videos have been a little long. I think the last one was actually like 40 minutes, which is way longer than I'd like. So as far as hurricane outlook, there's two systems kind of brewing. So we have a tropical wave as well as the real threat as far as hurricane season's kind of kicking off here. Potential tropical cyclone 6. So it is projected to kind of just hang out in the Atlantic, but we'll definitely keep an eye on this. This tropical wave, I think it's looking at about 2 inches as far as what it's going to drop here in New Orleans. Let's see. So keep on cruising. So the next thing, FCC approves $225 million for co-op, 35 co-ops to provide rural broadband. So this looks like some funding that was approved. Let's see. Yeah, $225 million. 35 electric cooperatives basically won this. It's a lot of money. Today's auction results highlight the power of cooperative partnerships. Let's see. Keep on cruising. Keep on cruising. I mean, it is good news. You can basically kind of provide cheaper internet, cheaper broadband, to places who don't have it. There's some places that even, they really just rely on satellite, so that's slower typically. So this is good news, but it kind of brings up some stuff as far as, why are the co-ops offering this? Why are the electric utilities offering it? And some people may not know, but the electric utilities, the co-ops, as well as some of the other, municipalities and even investor-owned utilities actually have their own fiber network. So whenever we basically engineer these systems, I actually have a little graphic. So this is once again, my lovely art skills here. So let's say we have our system as far as SCADA. So substation, so we have these different substations. So there's actually, let's say that this is a sub-transmission. So let me swap this back to black. Right, so this may be some sub-transmission as far as like voltage is basically. So you have, your generation steps it up to transmission, then steps it back down to, let's say, a sub-transmission voltage, which gets stepped down even again, to your distribution out to your houses. So, definitely apologize for the the lovely artwork here. Existing within this sub-transmission, there's this basically these two types of conductors. We have the power. That's actually being conducted on the power line. So you see this, you can visually see this, but then included as far as at the top, typically in a ground wire, so it looks like it's electrical power, but it's actually a ground wire, just to provide as far as a reference. So this is the grounding, and it does things as far as lightning, shielding, and serves some other purposes, like I said, as far as reference. So you have your conductor here. So this is actually, some kind of metal, steel, aluminum, basically. And then in the middle, there's actually fiber optics. So this is what we call optical power ground wire. So it's running at the top, basically performing that ground wire. In the middle of that ground wire, and then the red basically is showing here as far as power. So we have SCADA, supervisory control and data acquisition. It's potentially we have our ring here. So let's say just a standard installation as far as a token ring, kind of communicating here, and then we have power going to SCADA as well as information. So this is what's in green. So that's kind of showing the actual medium as far as the fiber. So the fiber is represented as green, the physical flow of power or electrons is kind of shown in red. So this may actually go out into the distribution system where that same ground wire is extended, and then there's fiber as well that's running right there. So what this plan will essentially do, it'll help kind of extend some of this fiber. So let me change this back out. Into the distribution system to where, you could potentially bring it all the way down, kind of extend it all the way out to the system. And you could even bring fiber all the way to the houses, for instance. The utility could do that, or there could be some kind of conversion, just to bring, let's say, cable or some other form of broadband to the actual resident. But as far as the potential issues here, this OPGW, there's, here I'm only showing basically one group, one bundle as far as TX and RX. So, light goes one way, light comes the other way. Just as these devices are communicating, but there's actually a bunch of other ones. So you can have, multiple strands in here. So that would be another one. This will be another bundle here. So bundle 2, and this kind of comprises bundle 1. So these, you can get massive. Fiber's pretty thin relative to the conductor itself. But the question is this going to be a shared network? You have to do, of course, all the proper segmentation. I think I marked that up, didn't mean to. So something to think about, right, as far as, this type of stuff, these types of grants, we have to make sure these things or these networks are properly segmented. Let's see, so keep on cruising. California looking to extend their program. I think this was basically a grant that was going out. Let's see, it's called, let me exit out. So energy storage gets a boost as California legislation extends the SGIP. So this is the Self-Generation Incentive Program. After the State Assembly approved it on Wednesday, so SB 700 adds nearly 3 gigawatts to the SGIP program. So under current law, it looks like it was going to end in 2019, and the bill is looking to extend it to 2026 at a price tag of $800 million. So that's pretty interesting. Let's keep on cruising. Let's see, First Energy. So this is another utility that's looking at actually closing, a couple coal-fired power plants, and a lot of people are pointing, especially you get into the politics of this type of stuff, and basically coal. We looked at the coal industry as far as the current administration's policies, during the campaign. But these are 4 coal-fired power plants that are looking at, First Energy is bringing offline, or at least set to. We have 2021, all 3 2021, and then their last one there, units 5 through 7, is going to be 2022. So basically the article kind of cites the reason as far as First Energy, and it's just price. It's cheaper to do other sources, and some of this gets into the EPA regulations requirements. Some of it just gets into the cost as far as the fuel source, as far as the actual coal. Let's see what else. But anyways, what it's looking at doing, it's removing this amount of generation capacity from the grid, right? So as the operators, the RTOs, and ISOs are looking at planning as far as the bulk electric system, the transmission grid, there is a market. So people who say this isn't a grid, I've seen some articles that basically, some so-called experts are saying people who call the grid a grid don't know what they're talking about. Well, it really is a grid. It really is a system. Utilities can sell power back and forth to other utilities. So it is going to be interesting to see what this does as far as the market. So, right, it is a supply and demand thing. So the less power that's out there, it could potentially increase the cost as far as the electric energy, the electric power, unless this same generation capacity is replaced by another source, right? So that's interesting. Keep on cruising. So California, once again, back in the news as far as looking at the liability. So I think the governor tabled something last week, and I think now it's back on the table, or at least there's a different approach. So legislative panel advances California Wildfire Utility Liability Bill. So it's interesting here. I was reading through this, And it looks like, the liability could be passed on to the customer. So if there is a fire that happens, that's a result of poor maintenance or found to be the result of negligence on the behalf of the utility, as far as the source of the fire, then the fire, the liability could be placed on the utility. Well, where's that money going to come from whenever they pay those fines or to the state? Well, this bill is basically looking at passing potentially some of those costs onto the actual customer, or at least some percentage. That way the utility themselves don't have to hit the entire burden, but that increases your bill, right? So it is a crazy compromise that I'm sure has to be sought there. Let's see, Ohio Power Forward. So this was something that's pretty interesting that I've stumbled on, and it's a program called Power Forward Ohio Public Utility. So they're utilities commissioner, or commission rather. So it's a group of people. So Power Forward Roadmap. So they have this cool little website. I was pretty impressed with it. So you can go through here, kind of look at this to say, okay, what's on the agenda, what's the things that are happening. So it looks like some history, talking about really this transformation that's happening in the grid. Not just in Ohio, but all over, right? So they're putting it in the context, of course, of their state to figure out what's happening currently, as well as what's the projection. And this is impressive. I mean, I thought California was kind of leading the way as far as this grid modernization. I know here in the South, we're not doing so well as far as kind of pushing things forward. Let's see. Oh yeah, this was funny. I'm wondering, as power systems engineer probably came up with this. Power Forward consisted of 3 phases. So 3 phases, A, B, C. This is a reason you see power. On your power lines, you see three lines typically, 3 or 4, 4 being the ground. So 3 phases: phase A, phase B, phase C, and that's basically how our AC alternating current system works. So they did their program or approach. They divided it up into 3 phases. So that's pretty funny. Let's see. Keep on cruising. So maybe I can do a video in the future, kind of deep dive into the actual report. So let's hop back over so you can download the full report. And I'll have links to all this stuff at the bottom of this video once I post it. Come on! I'm trying to do these videos faster. 44 pages, probably a lot of graphics. Yep, a lot of graphics. Yeah, so maybe I can do a deep dive into this. As far as the future, maybe some key takeaways as far as what other states could be doing, right? But this is a challenge. We definitely need increased resiliency, increased reliability as far as the distribution system, but we also have to make sure it's secure. The cybersecurity regulations, right? Once again, they don't apply to some sub-transmission and then most of distribution. The cybersecurity requirements for the grid do not apply to the distribution systems. And that's pretty much where we're getting a lot of technology being implemented, right? As far as distribution automation is at that level. So like I say, it can definitely, I'm going to try to come back and do a deep dive into that. So that's it as far as general. So let's hop on over to the Senate confirmation. Karen Evans, Assistant Secretary of DOE. So this is that the new office. So I'm going to have links to all this as well. I was trying to find the actual hearing online as far as the recording, and I couldn't find it. So if I find it in the future, I may come back and link it. But this is a new office. Secretary of Energy Rick Perry forms new Office of Cybersecurity, Energy Security, and Emergency Response. And then she would be the Assistant Secretary that basically leads this effort. So going to be following this pretty closely to see what comes out of it. I actually have her statement as well as far as the confirmation hearing. So this was a nomination hearing in front of the United States Senate Committee on Energy and Natural Resources. So there's her statement. Like I said, I'm going to have links to all this. Let's see. Here's another one. So this is a congressman, I think basically discussing his bill. So the I think the concern is, as far as this law, or the bringing this office online. I think this congressman is looking at trying to bring that into law, where there would be a dedicated office. So still honestly trying to digest some of this stuff. This article was basically written this week, but it doesn't. It just kind of summarizes some efforts and activities within this new proposed legislation, HR 5174, which I'm also linking here. So I have it. Right, so this was, let's see, actions. I think it was introduced January, February, March. So it was introduced March 6th, and it's up on the floor. So reported by the Committee on Energy and Commerce. So yeah, definitely, another thing to take a look at, as far as diving in to see exactly what this effort is proposing. All right, keep on cruising. So this is actually an old thing that I stumbled on. So Ed Markey, basically, Sen Ed Markey demands answers about Russian cyber attacks on electric utilities. So this is probably, it's with results of the, or it's stemming from the DHS briefings, which the Wall Street Journal then, kind of exaggerated it pretty extensively, saying, oh, it's a massive outage, massive grid outage. Well, no, but it looks like this prompted this senator to basically write a letter to the utilities, multiple utilities, including the North American Reliability Corporation, NERC, whose responsibility it is to kind of regulate and create these standards for the industry as far as cybersecurity. So a bunch of letters, so you can take a look and see as far as what he wrote. So yeah, here we go. Letters were sent to electric utilities, PG&E, FPL, Duke, Edison, let's see, even Entergy. So that's right here in our back door. Southern Company, Bonneville, even the overall Department of Energy, as well as FERC. So I'm wondering, so we have the letters that were sent. I'm actually interested in the letters that are going to be received back, to really see what everyone says. So maybe we can find those in the future. The other thing, as far as NERC goes, so NERC is actually in the process of modifying their one of their standards. So this is actually under Project 2015-09, Establish and Communicate System Operating Limits. So under the Facilities Design, Connections, and Maintenance, or FACT section of the standards, they're really working on redoing that or updating it. But then a consequence of updating all this, you now have to update some of the other standards as far as language. So SIP 14-2, which is the physical security. Let me go back here. This is what I wanted to get the actual red line. So here's some of the draft stuff. So red line to last approved. So there's not, too much here as far as modification. That's just redefining, not really redefining, but just changing kind of the reason there per its planning assessment of the near-term transmission planning horizon capability assessment. So that's something that's kind of minor. So nothing to really impact as far as the SIP standard. Let's see, there was something else. So you can see by the red line, there's not, nothing too much. So this just changes as far as the medium impact criteria. So it goes from exceeding one or more interconnection reliability operating limits. So it changes from that to result in instability, uncontrolled separation, or cascading. So it seems like this may introduce somewhat, maybe some more ambiguity, but that's up to, that's up to the utilities and the regions to figure out. Let's see. And I think that was it. As far as what's proposed. So, it's really open up for comment right now. And the reason is because if you're really into this stuff, which it's a lot to try to sort through, you can basically submit comments as far as saying, oh, well, no, this is now going to impact this, this update to this other standard. Now, we need to, change the way we're doing this standard. So it's cool that they open that up. And I think that's actually part of the process there. That they have to abide by, the actual legal process to opening these standards up for comment. All right, so let's see. EnergySec was this week. A lot of buzz around that. You can, like I said, there's the website. I brought this up last time. Pretty neat. Sadly, I don't think they put their presentations online. Several friends were there. Sadly, couldn't make it. Was there last year. But yeah, overall, it looked like it was a good event. It's cool, right? Twitter hashtags. You can you can almost follow some of this stuff live. So here we go. They give out a reward, so that's pretty awesome. Congrats on that one. Let's see. So it's cool, right? You can follow all this stuff live. Twitter is amazing. I think some people were even taking pictures and of the presentations and pretty much discussing them live. There was actually a comment that let's see. Yeah, it started with Brandon. So Brandon and Brian know these guys really well. Basically talks about NERC SIP, and then this statement that I responded with really stems from a buddy of mine, Steve Kuntzman. We talk about what does the R in NERC really stand for. When you get into this conversation as far as NERC SIP, a lot of times people are like, oh, you can't implement that technology because it's going to increase the vulnerability. Well, no, it's actually going to increase the reliability. And that's what the R in NERC stands for. It doesn't stand for retreat, where we have to run away. We have to keep the old electromechanicals. And it turns out, if you just do that, you actually violate another NERC standard, which says, oh, you have to have fault recording installed. But anyways, that's all a discussion for another day. So like I said, if the technology can improve reliability of the power grid, then SIP shouldn't impede or slow its adoption. You really need, yes, we need to understand the technology. Yes, we need to secure it, but it should never block, or the perception of these NERC SIP standards should not impede the adoption of newer technologies that can really facilitate increased reliability. I know some people were actually veering away and still don't want to move to IEC 61850 because of the fear of the NERC SIP requirements, saying, oh, if you implement 61850, you aren't NERC SIP compliant anymore, and that's just not the case. Just not the case. The other conference, right, the Industrial Control Systems ICS CERT Joint Working Group. So a lot of good stuff there. I think they had multiple tracks. Let's see. So you can pull up the agendas, as far as all the past stuff. So same thing. You can, I think a lot of people were also following that one on Twitter. So you can come over here and go to the latest, hashtag ICSJWG. Brian Owen, follow this guy definitely. He was doing some really cool analysis / comments as far as EnergySec, and I think I see. Well, here you can see his review of the Joint Working Group Conference event, as well as I think maybe he's talking about some comments on EnergySec as well. Let's keep on cruising. So another event that was this week. I mean, I don't get how these people can attend all these conferences, to be honest. There's so many. There's too many. And there seems to be a separation as far as, the industry conferences, the actual power industry conferences that talk about cybersecurity, resiliency, reliability, and the general industrial control system cybersecurity conferences. And I mentioned this before. So this one was CGRI. These guys are truly regarded, the organizers, the people who attend, I really view these as the industry experts, not only on power systems operations, but then also on power system cybersecurity. So this was a conference and exhibition. You can check it out. A lot of cool stuff, a lot of new vendor technologies as far as what was revealed. I think ABB revealed some cool stuff. I saw some news briefings on that. Let's see. So you can come check it out. What is CGRI? Let's see. I was trying to find the conference program. It's somewhere on here where you can actually look at as far as the conference program. And when I was looking at it earlier, I actually saw there was 2 tracks that was really looking at the reliability, security of the grid. Of power systems, of power grids. So that was pretty interesting. Let's see, as far as future coming up, IEEE, PS, PSCC, PSRC. So this is the technical committee meeting. I'll have links to that. The Texas Cyber Summit, so talk was accepted. So it looks like I'm going to be presenting there along with coworker Luke Abear. So talking about security implications of the connected grid. So looking at DERs, distributed energy resources, battery storage. What does that mean as far as if those systems are compromised? What are the physics impact? What is the impact of the physics to the grid? There's Grid SecCon, also S4, so that's another smiley face. S4 got the email from Dell saying that, hey, the talk was accepted. And basically this is the, making cybersecurity part of the engineering process. So that talk was accepted, so definitely I think he's going to open up registration pretty soon, I believe. So that's going to be cool. I'll have a link to that as well. And then Distributech, right? Teaching a class again along with Dr. Yala from Beckwith, Steve Kunzman from ABB, and then Matt Cole from Three Phases Associates. All right, so this is it. August 31st, 2018. I'm going to have links to all this below. Any questions, comments, feel free to comment below or reach out. You can reach me at my email there at the top, n.wallace.us@IEEE. All right, so thanks. Have a good weekend, and happy Labor Day.